Hey, everybody, welcome to Sunday morning.
Yep, Sunday mornings with spiritual discoveries.
Yep, what are, so
Dan and
what are we
Angela
talking
Clark.
about today?
Dan, we're talking about the topic exactly as the price we all must pay to be free after the cult. So,
Yeah,
yes,
that's an interesting topic. And how's our sound and everything? Let's make sure we're
yes.
right. Okay, probably a little high. So anyway, yeah, we just wanted to talk about the price, for freedom, because, I know when I left the Watchtower, after 40 years after I um, decided to turn in my letter, there was a big price to pay, and the price was my family, my friends, people that I've known for 40 years, because the Watchtower, like really any other religion, are worlds built within a world. What I mean by that is, like, the earth is here, right? Here's planet earth, and the Watchtower was a world within that world. It was its own world, right?
Mm,
Christianity is its own world. We're Christians and everybody out here is something else, right? And we're Jehovah's Witnesses and everybody else out here is something else. So they've built a world within a world, and they've usually given us pretty strict guidelines, and the guidelines are, we have the truth, they don't. They're the pigs, they're the ones God's going to destroy, or Jesus is going to destroy, or Allah's going to destroy. Some most religions, somebody's got to be destroyed so
right.
somebody else can live, and it's terrible. That's why we never fit in to Christian religions. You know what I mean? Like regular religions where it involves genocide. Most religions, I used to say that was just the witnesses that involved genocide. But it's most religions that someone else has to be exterminated so that we can live. Us special ones, us that have, given our life to Jehovah, given our life to Jesus, given our life to Allah. You just put it whatever in front of it, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to talk about today is the price that we have to pay for freedom, because it isn't free. It isn't free. When I left my family, it was the biggest surprise to me. I talked about this last night on the radio show. It was the biggest surprise to me that my family would really turn on me, that my family would really turn on me. I didn't believe it. I thought me and my mother were close, me and my brothers were close. And when I left, it was like chop. It was literal a severing. It wasn't a shunning, it was an abandonment. And that's what pisses me off about religion, about Jehovah's Witnesses especially, is they try to whitewash it, they try to water it down, that we're just shunning for disciplinary measures. We're just shunning. Well, one of the cruelest things you can do is shun somebody when somebody's returned. Yeah, you know what I mean? I understand shunning somebody if somebody's done a bad thing, right? They come into church and they had sex with sister so and so, and brother sister so and so had sex with so and so, and they were told, because you're in an organization, you're in a confined environment, and it has to remain order, right? And it has to remain somewhat clean if it's a religion. So there's a necessary reason to shun somebody who fearlessly doesn't want to obey the rules within the organization. So there's a shunning. But when there's repentance, that's a whole nother thing. Say the brother and the sister come forward and say, we made a terrible mistake, right? Right after the disfellowshipping, right? They fell in love, maybe they were married, whatever, but they've come to their senses, right? They've come back to reality. They've gotten over the emotional high, whatever it was they were looking for, and they decide to go to the elders and tell the elders, hey, we've sinned, we've screwed up.
So this could be Catholic or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
But in the Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, it could be any religion.
Hmm.
And but you've got to go back, and it's not just return home, like the prodigal son, where you come home and you're embraced and you're forgiven and stuff like that. It's a long process. It could be years. I know Watchtower is speedily changing all these things because of these problems they have, but it used to be 2 to 10 years after a person repented. 2 to 10 years. See, that's
The
severe.
record shows it's
The
true.
record shows it's true. You go back and talk to anybody. Some people have tried for 14 years to get back, and they go, nope. If the elder has an attitude toward you, if you pissed off the elder and he's a narcissist and he's got an ego, then you're not going to get past him as a gatekeeper. And he is a gatekeeper. The elders are gatekeepers.
Absolutely.
And so it's very interesting. So what I wanted to talk about today was, we can come out of these things. Like when I came out of the witnesses, Angela came out of Worldwide Church of God.
And another cult actually too.
And another cult after that. There was a terrible price. Angela lost her kids.
Yeah.
In her last cult. And even during her leaving her other religion, there was family involved that shunned her severely, withheld love.
And not from my first cult, because the first one, really what happened was simply that we went to a meeting that they felt that we were now a danger to the rest of the congregation in Denver, Colorado. And so in Worldwide Church of God was where I grew up. And so because we attended that meeting, we were rejected, abandoned, not shunned. I mean, shunned, yeah, because if we saw anyone in the grocery stores or anywhere ever again, they won't talk to us, they won't look at us. It's a shunning, absolutely. But without any right to come back and say, I'm sorry, I attended that meeting, I shouldn't have, please forgive me. No, you're out, you're forever out. And that was my only family. I mean, that's the whole thing about the price we pay, because we went in there, a lot of us, because maybe we didn't have family, or somehow we wanted to belong. So we had a strong feeling that, oh my gosh, I finally found it, and I've got my family now, and they're loving, and we do everything together, and we're a tight-knit group. And then all of a sudden, bam, you're out, just like that. Like what happened with me. I was very heavily involved in my youth group, and traveled all around with some things that we did, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm out, just out forever, and
Forever.
it's very painful. But I guess I could have groveled my way back, maybe, just maybe they might have accepted me. But how they look at it is, you are a germ that could infect the rest of the congregation, and they're not going to allow you to come back, because there's a chance that you could sour everybody. And after what I heard at that meeting, yeah, there is that possibility. So they had spies go to it and write down every name of every person that attended this meeting, and we were all excommunicated. I think about 50 of us all at once. Boom. So that's, you go because I felt the right thing to do was to go to that meeting, because it was like the other side of the story in the situation in the Worldwide Church of God. And I felt that the right thing to do was to hear the other side of the story. So that's using my own judgment and my freedom. And then, but the price of that freedom was, I didn't even think of that I might be excommunicated. It never occurred to me that something like that would happen. And none of us.
You might tell them a little of the background. The church was dividing. They were more messianic, and
they were Jehovah's Witness with a Jewish twist.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
They were in the holy days, Sabbath. And so they were converting to Christianity. They were splitting right down the middle.
Well, that's not quite what was happening at that time. It was the father and the son who were splitting.
Okay.
And it was really because the son, who was spoiled rotten, had done all kinds of promiscuity and whatnot, and he was forever getting in trouble and being put out, and then he'd repent and come back. And this is the guy who was on the TV and the radio all the time, writing, our articles for our church. No one knew of all these shenanigans that went on except for the hierarchy, but he was forever getting in trouble, and they had to kick him out. And so finally it was a solid split, and the son was complaining to his dad about his shenanigans and saying, yeah, Dad, but you did my sister for all those years, and oh my God, this kind of thing. And anyway, it was a massive split. So that's where I didn't know, and I didn't know any of those shenanigans. They kept all that hidden from us. But when I went to the meeting to hear that son's side of the story, not knowing anything about it, nobody knew anything about it, and then all of a sudden you're out,
Wow.
and so that's my freedom to want to know the other side of the story, because it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do, but then you're out. So again, a big fat shock.
Oh yeah.
And it was the same in my other cult that I was in. You make choices for what's right, and stand up for what's wrong, and you're out. And that cost me everything on the last cult. And I met Dan on the heels of that. Thanks be to God. God is so good and so kind. I realized that he never left me. When that second cult, they dumped me, and I was just dumped. then I realized, oh, so they told me God hated me because it's such a wretch, such a loser, such a weak, weak loser. But all of a sudden I realized God is with me. He's helping me, guiding me, directing me, answering my prayers. Oh, wow. Shock of all shocks.
Yeah,
So I didn't lose God after all. I thought, call God whatever you want. God, Jehovah, he's mad at me. He hates me. Nope, not true. Dan experienced the same. Not true. Never true. Never true for anyone, really.
that's right.
And so they lied to us about that. When you leave, God will not be happy with you. You're not, you're not loved. You're not, you're not welcome here because you're a rebel. You disobey God. Like, no. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. And so what I wanted to talk about today was, I know a lot of people that leave these organizations, Christianity too, and they end up in recovery, right? Because what we don't realize when we leave, and I didn't either, is that I've been programmed. I have been literally programmed inside and out, consciously and subconsciously. So what I didn't really realize, like a lot of people don't really realize, is that leaving is the very first step. Step one
In the right direction.
of a million steps, because we have been programmed subconsciously, consciously, subconsciously. Uh, I mean, we are definitely programmed, and I think we don't realize that. We don't know what we don't know, because when I got out of there, I was like, yeah, I had all this stuff in my head, God's name's Jehovah, we don't take blood, we don't do this, we don't do that. And how could I ever really fit into the world again, right? If I really believed, every word in the Bible, it's unequivocally the word of God. And the more you believe that the Bible is unequivocally the word of God, every word God spoke, he put in the Bible, that's what religions tell you. They tell you every word, you got to believe every word. And I've been told that by people in religion. You got to believe all of it or none of it. If you don't believe, and I've been told that in Course in Miracles, I've been told that in every religion tells you that. You got to believe all of it or none of it.
Including Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, yes. And you got to believe our interpretation of it. And that's the problem. The witnesses, I've had 40 years of indoctrination into that interpretation, which was all based on God's name and, trinities. We don't believe in a trinity. And we had all these things buried in our subconscious mind, right? So you walk into another spiritual center or another church, and they use the name Jesus, right? You go in there and you go, oh shit, they're talking about the mediator. He ain't nothing. God is who we worship, Jehovah. And so you don't really fit in, because that is a running program in the back of your mind. God's name Jehovah. I know God's name Jehovah. It was 7,000 times in the Old Testament. It was on dollar bills and it was on buildings, and we had all the brochures and everything. It was on coins, Jehovah, and it was the real name, and Satan's hiding the name Jehovah. You guys remember all that stuff.
And we don't take blood, and they do. And
yeah, you go to another church and they got a blood truck out there, and you're like, oh my God, get past, they're taking blood, and everywhere you go,
you think, oh my God, it's,
there's
Satan,
a Christmas tree in another place, in a spiritual building, there's a tree in there, and everywhere you go. So these are all running programs. And I think sometimes we don't realize. I didn't realize that there was so many. I had the one Jehovah lodged in my head. And so I went around telling everybody about God's name and explaining why I believed God's name's Jehovah. And anyway, long story short, that's the thing I wanted to talk about, that these programs, we've got to give ourselves time to work through these programs. These are serious programs. These aren't little programs. These are belief systems,
Yes, and part of the price of freedom is that you have to be willing to go through this uncomfortableness, because it is uncomfortable when you go into a church and they have a Christmas tree up. Or like Dan said, they're doing something with pumpkins out in the front. They're giving away free pumpkins, or it's Halloween time, or whatever it is, this price that we have to pay, because you feel all these feelings of that's wrong, and you feel like everywhere you go it's like that. But it's part of the price of our freedom, is to be willing to open up and try hard to just keep going forward. Try not to fear so much. We can tell you from firsthand experience that nothing bad happened to us at all, nothing. Dan was even afraid to put his hand on the doorknob of this first church he went into.
Yep.
And the lady's like, what are you doing, Dan? Just open the door. And he's like, oh my God, I put my hand on the door. It's going to burn my hand off and Jehovah's going to strike me dead, you know? And he put his hand on the doorknob and went in and nothing bad happened.
But that was a big fear thing.
Yeah.
Because you guys know we were told that in Babylon the Great, there's every disgusting thing and demons lurking. And so when I reached out to that door, you know, I went like that and I put my hand back and the lady saw me doing that. And that was a fear that I had to go through. Why? Because I had scriptural Jehovah's Witness ideology programming. And so those things have to be overturned. So I pushed through. I went through that door and I went in there and I sat down and I listened to music. And it wasn't really a regular religion. It was more of a spiritual center. So it was more, they would quote from spiritual people, Paramahansa Yogananda, different people, Buddha, Jesus, you know, they would just do different quotes and read them. So you never felt like you were like in a regular Bible-based fundamentalist religion. And so anyway, it took a lot. So that was a price. So we're talking about the price you pay for freedom. So that was a price I had to pay to walk through that door. That was a price I had to pay to see my family disown me, because there's a way out of it. There is a way out of this freedom. And the way out of freedom is to go back into slavery, go back into their bondage. So my parents and brothers were in bondage. They were mentally sick. They were lost. They weren't doing anything with their life, welfare, you know, they were just going down the tubes. And they were very sick mentally. They started to get sicker and sicker mentally. My younger brother just died, and he died, you know, Jehovah's going to kill you, Danny. Jehovah, same words as my mother used. Jehovah's going to kill me, she said, her. Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me. My dad died of shame in there. So I chose not to be a part of that shame anymore, part of that guilt of Watchtower, part of that infrastructure. So I was willing to pay the price to let go of my family, to find my freedom. And that's what I did.
You know, here's what's interesting is that Dan didn't know what he was going to find. That's the thing. That's what's kind of scary about it. I mean, at least we can tell you what we have found as first, you know, forerunners, pioneers, if you will, of what really goes on out there in the world and what good is, what wonderfulnesses are out there. But, you know, of course, the freedom that you have to go back is still a freedom, but you know what? It's not freedom of mind, soul, your purpose. All of that is given up for the price, you know, the freedom that you have to stay with your family, because it is a choice. But what is more important to you? Family and feeling dissatisfied all the time and living your life that way all the way to the end, where you're always disgruntled, you have some hidden knowing that something's wrong and you just ignore it and you just become a vegetable. Like really, what they don't realize, they look like vegetables in our way of looking at it when we go into them now. We're like, oh my gosh, there's so much mental illness, it's unreal. But they don't see that.
No.
But they're slowly slipping away into that, dying really, because they're not willing to pay the price for the freedom. And the fears feel very real. They really, really do, because the programming is really strong. But again, we can tell you from firsthand knowledge that when you leave any cult, and like mine, the two that I left, there is beautiful freedom on the other side, because we chose the right thing. We chose from our soul. We chose from our heart from God, a nudging from God, inner GPS, whatever you want to call it, Holy Spirit, that something's wrong and we must follow it, not knowing where we're going to be taken and what is going to happen. And it can be a little bit frightening, but knowing that we made it and knowing that we're not crazy and knowing that Jehovah, God, or whatever God you want to call God, did not strike us dead.
Abandon us.
And he didn't abandon us, and he's blessed us. And with each other too. We've been married 19 years now, me and Dan. So, you know, we can tell you that what they told us is a lie. We can tell you that for sure. And anyway,
yeah, that's right.
You know, there's choices. What kind of freedom do you want? You know?
Yeah. And you know, it feels weird. I got to tell you, the world feels weird. You know, I don't know if you've seen people that come out of prison that have been in prison a long time, right? That's a planet within a planet, right?
Yeah.
When you're in prison, it's a world within a world. You're in a whole nother world. You're kind of severed off from the world to some degree. And a lot of them, when they come out of prison, they don't know how to be.
No.
They're like,
they don't.
everything's changed, technology's changed, TV's changed,
Remote's
leadership has
changed.
changed, our government's changed, our world has changed. You imagine being in prison 20 years ago and then coming into our world now. You'd say, what happened? What's going on? Why are these
Yeah.
riots everywhere? Why are they breaking out windows? What's going on? What happened to our voting? You know,
And all the complications trying to get a job that didn't used to be, it used to be so easy to get a job. All you had to do is just show up and say, I'm looking for a job. Oh, sure. Yeah. Fill out this application. Are you available right now? Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do an appointment. Okay, you're hired. There wasn't all of this long, creepy stuff that's got to go on. Sometimes you're just a piece of paper and a machine. They don't even know what you look like, except for maybe if you put one up. They don't ever meet you sometimes. I mean, it's really weird how you got to do a job these days. And can you imagine those prisoners, how they feel about that? Like you come out of prison a number, and now you're a number in a machine well, okay, the qualifications are there. Okay, it's like you're still a number, and the adjustment would be severe. So it's the
yes,
same, it is the same difference
yeah.
as that. It is
Yes, that's right. And and they come out disoriented. So you
very,
will be disoriented. When you come into this world, you'll be disoriented. And you've got to accept that. And you will acclimate to it. You will
yes,
adjust to the
yes.
disorientation. And part of the other thing that's happened in the Jehovah's Witnesses, as well as other religions, is they teach you self-abandonment, that you have to abandon the self. That like the Watchtower says, we're the governing body. We govern you. You have a governor, which means you have somebody that tells you what to do on a regular basis. They instruct you. You're always instruction. So when you wake up in the morning, you're being instructed. Here's what we instruct you to do. Go out door to door, Saturdays door to door, Thursdays meeting. Here's our instructions for the bedroom. Here's our instructions for blood. Here's our instructions for,
Marriage,
COVID. Here's
parenting.
yes, parenting. These are all their instructions. So you've basically given over your mind, right? And when you need an answer, what do you do in religion? You go to your pastor, you go to your leader, you go to your elder.
Go to the instruction book, go to the
Yeah,
book on
you
how
go to the
you
Watchtower, you
need
go
to
to
get
the
the watchtower
Awake, you go to
way.
the publications, you write the governing body. See, so you're not used to thinking. That is another thing you're going to have to do when you get into the world, and it's worth it because it's great to have your thinker working again. It took me about 10 years to get my thinker working because I was so reliant. Watchtower teaches codependency on Watchtower. And so I had abandoned myself. And you guys know we abandon our heart. The heart's treacherous and desperate. So when you have those love feelings towards others, maybe you see somebody, you think it's he or she's attractive, or
Or maybe somebody in the world that you shouldn't love.
that's what I mean. You
Oh,
abandon,
yeah.
you abandon that. You abandon it. The heart's treacherous and desperate. Who can know it? It's tricking you. It's misleading you. It's misguiding you. Don't go there. Don't go there. So here you have already two major guides within you. You have a thinking brain, and you have a heart that thinks, and a gut that thinks. All of these things are things God put in you. They say, listen to your gut. Listen to your heart, follow your heart, which is follow the love, right? And so we have all of this inborn guidance that we've been told to deny. We've been told to get rid of. Don't think too much. That's the devil working on your mind. Don't go into your heart. Don't fall in love. Don't talk to that guy over there that's crying, that wants to come back, but Jehovah's disciplining him right now. Don't listen to your heart. And so you've totally denied yourself. So when you come out, you've got a bit of separation within yourself, disassociation or separation or compartmentalization. Simply said, you don't really know yourself. You're not really anchored to yourself. You really don't know. You don't know that you can trust yourself. You know what I mean? Because you've been told don't trust yourself. You've been
Right.
told don't trust your mind, don't trust everything's Satan. Everything's misleading you. And so, and this is the same thing in a relationship. I just want to say, even relationships, jobs, all these fall into the same category. They're worlds within a world. You work with us because of this, you do this, and I'm your boss, and I'm going to tell you. And it's the same thing. And then when you leave, you second guess yourself. You start saying, well, it was pretty good. You kind of do like the Israelites when they were in bondage, right? They were in bondage and they were eating pretty well. I guess they were eating meat or something. And and they left. They didn't have that meat luxury. So they said, oh, only if we were back in Egypt, we'd have our meat and our stuff. But they didn't realize they were in slavery and they were making bricks and working very, very hard.
They quickly forgot about that painfulness back there.
Yes.
You
And
know?
so sometimes we'll do that with Watchtower or with a religion. We'll come out and we'll think, maybe I did the wrong thing.
Mhm.
Maybe my family's right. Maybe this world is coming to the end and I'm so close to paradise. I'm so close to getting into the new system. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I'll just hang out a few months longer or whatever, right? Well, a lot of witnesses and worldwiders too
Oh, yeah.
have been doing this for years, really their whole life. I remember in the 60s when I was really young. I was watching the people take the memorial and they were the last of the last drinking. And it was really exciting. We'd watch them and we're going, wow, look at them. They're drinking. Those are the anointed. Those are the final. And then they've opened it up that more people could drink now and less people and more people. It's been all over the place.
Yeah, and actually, today is a memorial.
Yeah.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just know that this is the price for freedom. Now, the beautiful thing is if we'll go through this, if we'll walk through some darkness, because it is kind of dark, it is kind of uneasy. When I say darkness, I mean, we don't exactly know where we're going. It was kind of like when Paul, had the dirt thrown in his eyes, right? He didn't quite know where he was going, right? They took him by the hand and led him into the deal. And, Jesus supposedly talked to him and said, why are you killing me?
Or why are you persecuting my people?
Yeah, why are you persecuting my people? If you persecute them, you persecute me. And so, but he was led blindly, in the unknowingness of where we're going. And he was going to be born anew. He was going to reawaken and come to a new understanding instead of just having people killed and working for whoever he was working for. I don't know, who was he working for? Paul.
Well, he was with the Roman.
Romans.
No, sorry, not the Roman. He was a Jew. He was with the priestly class because he'd been through all the schooling and all of that.
Yeah, the church that killed Jesus.
Mhm.
So, so he was following that. So he had to unlearn and relearn, right? And so, and then he got a greater understanding. He moved into a greater sense of love, and now he decided that he would love those people instead of kill those people. So he had a big change. But in the process of the change, there was a blindness that happened, right? He got the dirt in his, it was a flash. He had a flash that happened. Another guy at the
Blinding
water
light.
had mud put in his eyes. There was always a mud put in your eyes so you could see differently, see more clearly. There was the mud, and then there was the washing out of the mud, right?
It's symbolic, right? Probably.
It's symbolic. And so you're going to have that. I'm going to have that. When we come out of Watchtower, we're going to have some mud thrown in our eyes. We're not going to be able to see clearly. Which way do I go? Which way do I go? Am I going to go into another Christian church? Am I going to go into Buddhism, Hinduism? Am I going to go into spirituality where I accept everybody? Am I going to become an atheist? What am I going to do?
And the temptation is to find another family. Okay.
Mhm.
It just, I don't know. I think we're inborn to want to feel that we want a family. So just know that. And what will happen sometimes is you'll like, yes, I found my new family. And then about 2 months later, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. This is not right. And I can't pretend again that this is okay. And then you go to another and another and another. And each time you think I've found my new family, and each time it isn't. And you have to come to peace with that too. That's
Yep.
our experience anyway. That you think you found it. Sometimes people even think they found it and stay for 6 months, even a year. And then they find out now, geez, man, this is not right. And they have to be true to thyself again, to their own self be true, and they have to move on. Again, me and Dan have had to do that so many times. And but it's the right thing to do. And now we just, I don't know. I guess I just want to say, if you're a person who's dealing with this, just relax. Just relax, because oddly, you are being divinely guided. That's what we've discovered, even though it doesn't seem like it. Having gone to all these churches, we have a whole nother perspective now, and we don't have to find the next big family anymore. We finally
Or
let
the
that
next
go.
big absolute truth.
Uh-huh.
You
And
know?
it's funny because we had a guy who married Dan and I, and he was a really, really good man, really close to God, had really great personal relationship. And we said, Pastor Dwight, we can't seem to find the right church in Denver. And he goes, in Denver, it says You might not find it. We're like, what? You're a pastor, you know, how could you say that? Of course there'd be the right church for us somewhere. This is a big, huge city. Well, guess what? We did never find it. We never found our family in Denver or Colorado, period. So, but we found wonderful people along the way, in the different religions that were precious souls that we, still love. But, and you find them all along the way. But, it doesn't matter the religion. It doesn't really matter. But we've come to peace with that. It took
Yeah,
time, took a
takes
long
time.
time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you want the next absolute truth because you were told in your religion that that was absolute truth. Worldwide Church of God
yeah.
said we have the absolute truth. Herbert W. Armstrong, he was God's messenger, right? And the
Martyr Pat
governing
Armstrong.
body, the same thing. They're appointed by Jehovah, so and the other thing they've done is they've told us to not trust ourselves in the sense of they've said that light is dark and dark is light, meaning when 1975 was coming, they said Jehovah gave us new light. And there were many prophecies before 1975, but 1975 was a big one. They had that really ground down, really dialed in. They had a whole lot of people.
Yeah, and it's same in Worldwide Church of God. We had about the same date you guys had.
Yep,
Almost identical. It was just off by a tiny little bit, maybe days.
yep.
But it was all in 1975.
So
Yeah.
they had millions and millions following, millions and millions
Oh,
chanting,
yeah.
75, 75,
Yeah.
right?
It was a very big church, a worldwide ministry.
And then it passed. It
Mhm.
started to get closer, and they realized, that it wasn't going to happen. So they quickly devised a new prophecy, and their pattern was that the light gets brighter as the day draws near. So they sent us to assemblies. They sent us to their assemblies where they would give out new information and new light packed away in their new magazines, which was based on a mastermind meeting that they had at corporate headquarters that we've got to devise some more bullshit and make up a new date to keep these people strung along.
Yeah, now ours was just simply that, well, God and his wonderful love for us, that he wanted to give a more time, because God is patient, and, he's not wishing that any should perish. And so, that scripture that talks about that. And so that's why we're just waiting on our God to, choose a time. Nobody knows, only the Father. And so God is giving us more time, anytime, anytime. And years went by. And then I graduated in 1978, and they were still saying that maybe this is going to be it. Maybe this holy day will be the day that Jesus comes back. And, it's just never ending. Yeah, they never
Yep.
even came up with new dates.
So Watchtower, so what they've done, so 75 comes and gone, and they all of a sudden turn up the light, right? And they say, 75, what are you talking about? What do you mean 75? We never said anything was going to happen in 75. You know what I mean? Actually, we just got a greater understanding of the generation prophecy that 70 or 80 years from 1914, the end's going to come. It's the generation. So now you get all this information on the generation prophecy. And what happens is, and here's the point I was trying to make, is what happens is what happened to the truth that you knew wasn't the truth, right? The truth was they lied. The truth was they missed the mark. The truth was they got it wrong. The truth was they heard wrong. The truth was Jehovah told them wrong, or they heard wrong, but they're doing the best they can. But they don't admit that. They don't do that. They blame it on you. So several hundred thousands of people left in 1975 because of the false prophecy, and they blamed it on the people. And which means, and so the people who stayed had to say that the truth that they had wasn't truth. They literally took the truth that they had. They said, well, something went wrong. The people that are still there, something went wrong. And Watchtower says, no, nothing went wrong. Same prophecy. We've just got greater light. And so what a witness does at that point is they deny the truth that they were believing. And by denying, they push it down, and it becomes unconscious, which means the truth that they knew, they now say, well, we agree with Watchtower, it never happened. They've lost a part of themselves.
Well, not only that, Dan, but they told the people that they made a wonderful excuse to blame those that left, saying that Jehovah's just cleaning out his organization, right? I mean, there's always a way that they can blame. And then you can also buy into that they left because they were never really one of us. That's what they said in Worldwide. They left because they were never really one of us.
Yeah.
And it says it right in the Bible like that. And so they blame it on them. It's so brilliant.
They didn't
It's
really
so
love Jehovah. They
brilliant.
were just here for a time. They
That,
just
there you
wanted the
go.
end, and they don't trust
Yeah,
Jehovah.
so then everybody feels like, oh, they're the rejected of God.
Yeah,
They're the rejected of Jehovah. So then you really don't want to have anything to do with them. And you have a justification in your peon brain that, yeah, I don't even want to have anything to do with them, that they're the rejected of God, of Jehovah. And that further divides. And so, wow, what a price for freedom.
yeah.
That,
And so when they do that over and over, so they did that in 75, then they did that in the generation prophecy, then they did that in the overlapping generation
yeah,
prophecy.
again and again.
And so basically what that does is turns off your bullshit meter. So
Yeah, right,
everyone
that's a big
has,
problem.
yeah, everyone has a bullshit meter. Everyone says, no, that investment that you told me was going to cash in on this date didn't cash in. Oh, well, actually, it did cash in. It just wasn't as much as we thought. But if you just wait a little bit, it'll cash in. It'll be worth a lot of money. And so they said in about 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, it's going to cash and you're going to have quadruple your money and you'll live happily ever after. And so you wait and it doesn't happen and you call them out and they say, well, we never said that. And so that's Watchtower. And so what happens is, though, is you shut down your compasses, your inner GPSs, your bullshit meter, your guidance systems. So Watchtower has done that too. They've shut down. That's why people are so lost when they get out of there.
You know what I think I'm so amazed about? God lets us turn off our bullshit meter. He doesn't stop us. It's like the prodigal son thing where you're allowed to shut off your bullshit meter. I mean, if you keep accepting the lie and you don't, like, to thine own self be true, God allows you to go into uh, a denial. He'll allow it. He doesn't stop it. And then you really, really get blinded. The more you shut your bullshit meter off, the more you get more dark in your mind. It's like, I don't know, but God allows you to do this to yourself. And then in the end, we're in the dark, bad.
Yeah.
And now we got to cry out. And I'm just so amazed by that this God does allow this.
Yeah.
And
So with all this in mind, the price of freedom, when you're coming out of this, I was talking to him last night on a radio show on 6 screens, and I said, you may need a parachute. You're jumping off, or you're going to be thrown off Watchtower Planet or whatever it is. Watchtower, Christianity. When you leave, you're leaving a planet, a whole consciousness, a planet that's all the same consciousness, the same thinking, the same everything, right? And so when you leave that, you need to have a parachute. You need to be thinking ahead of what the price is that you're going to pay, and a backpack. I just thought of a backpack. You're going to need some snacks along the way. You're going to need a backpack because you are going to be abandoned. It's the truth. You won't talk to these people again. And that's something you really don't realize until after you leave, the extent of the punishment that Watchtower wants to put on
oh
you,
man,
which is total
oh
abandonment.
man. And especially if you're a young person who doesn't even have a job right now. I mean, God bless you for making such a choice. But Dan is dead serious. You're going to have really, Dan recommends that you start developing relationships. A good place is a 12-step group. A good 12-step group where you can make worldly friends, but they're working on themselves to become better people. And it's not religious exactly, but they believe that, there is a higher power or God, whatever a person wants to call God. You can call God Jehovah, whatever you want. But you rely on it, and you learn some basics about how to function in this world and how to be in this world, and you make good friends in there. And at least you begin to learn where to go get food. That I want to tell you right now that if you put the word resources and then your city name in your computer, wherever you go, you put that in, and up will pop food banks, housing, all kinds of resources, bus tokens, places to get your resume done for free, you name it. And you'll want to just make some phone calls to these people, and just kind of, get to know what resources are in the area where you want to go to, or where you're going to choose to live, or where you're going to take the plane to, whatever you're going to do. But make your plan, and do not tell a soul what you are doing, because they will tell on you. And so you must do this alone. And so you must make friends on the outside. and begin your trek. But backpack with snacks, no, he's not kidding. Money, you gotta have some money. You're gonna have to have a plan and put in order.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's what I mean by the backpack, like
yes,
a
the
plan.
plan.
Have a plan for some long-term nights by yourself.
Yeah, seriously.
And, maybe make some friends before you leave, make some bridges. I was also gonna say, you may need some therapy. You may need some cult, what do they call it?
Cult therapy.
Yeah, cult therapy,
therapist,
where they have to,
deprogram.
deprogram you.
You might call it deprogramming, and they're not all good. You're going to have to trust your bullshit meter when you go in, because sometimes they're just about the money and sometimes they're another cult. And so you just have to follow your heart and be very careful. But I've found a really, really great one. And she really helped me. She'd been in a cult herself. And it was the craziest thing. They got out together like a skate and started their life again. And then all of a sudden, about 2 years in, they're like, oh crap, we need to go and get our daughter out of there. Imagine that, you guys. 2 years later, they're realizing, oh, we need to go get our daughter out of there. Because what had happened in the particular cult she was in, the community raised her kids. And so they were not bonded, I guess you would say, with their kid. And so then they had to involve I don't know, not just the police, but they had to be educated how to deal with this situation by this lady who was training, taught me how to get out of this cult in a healthy way and helped me with all the tools I needed. She had to teach the police force how to do this so that no one gets killed. And it was incredible what they had to do and plan to get this daughter out. But anyway, we're not the only ones. It's just FYI. And there was one other thing I wanted to bring up before we kind of
Yeah.
wind it down, but it was something I've just been dealing with lately. And it's like where people want to blame you for things, and because the fact that we've always been wrong, we're the losers, we're not the anointed class, we're not the the church elite class, whatever you want to call it, in the group that you're in, the church you're in. You tend to feel like everything is your fault, everything. So when things go wrong and people do what's wrong, the leadership does wrong, they by you, they abandon you, they accuse you, they flat out lie, whatever. You tend to want to say it's my fault, and then you feel like you're the one who's not holy. You feel like you're the one who's the loser. You feel like you're the one who abandoned them, oddly, that you're the one who was not loving, that what you were the one who wasn't something. We tend to blame ourselves, and it's hard because when you get out into 12-step groups and you really start studying some books on, I don't know, understanding the human tendencies and the mind and the games people play, and you learn all this stuff by books and by prayer and by asking God and all of that. You learn how things work. But when we come out of a cult, we're dysfunctional as all hell, and we don't really know what's up and what's down and what's black and what's white in a whole lot of areas. And we don't understand that. No. That is your stuff. That's not mine. You did that. You lied. You gave false truths and kept changing it over and over and over again. And I have finally come to the realization that, you are not loving. You are the one who's following the devil, not me. And I did what was right. And then they make you feel like you're the bad one and that you're the bad heart. And just everything is your fault. And it feels terrible because that makes you feel like, well, then I'm not one of God's children because I have no love in me. I'm bitter, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. Well, yeah, you are. Hell yeah, you're mad, and you should be, rightfully so. But they're going to put that on you, that you've lost your goodness. You've lost your godliness. You're not holy anymore. Look at your attitude. Look how you're so disobedient. Look how disrespectful you are to the elders. But whatever, they come up with all this bullshit stuff to throw you off track so that you feel like, oh, you're right. Oh, well, what's wrong with me? And then you go running back just to rethink all this over again. And now you're back around round 3 of wanting to leave again because they do this little game. It's a head game. But Dan's been helping me realize that, the more we get in touch with ourselves, the more that we love ourselves and respect our opinion. This is part of loving yourself. It's respect your opinion, respect the intuition that God is giving you as far as what you think is right and what's wrong. And when you get solid on who you are and you know that, no, this is their stuff. This is not my stuff. They're putting their stuff on me because they don't want to feel guilty. They don't want to feel bad. They don't want to be in the wrong. They're always in the right. They've always been in the right. They're the elders, right? So they can't be wrong. And so they will make sure that you feel that you're in the wrong no matter what. They're going to put their guilt on you. And so to stand up for you and say, no, no, I'm standing my ground on this one, and that this is their problem. They're trying to put it on me, and not accept that it's you. And don't let them make you feel that way, because, just because you get angry, look, it says in the Bible that Jesus was angry, and it says in the Bible, be angry and sin not. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So it simply means you're going to be angry, but don't let the sun go down at the end of a day without having resolved it with God, and hopefully with that other person if you can. But don't go with the wrong heart, because then you open up the door in your heart to more anger, more bitterness, more demons. And so we don't want that. So that's why the admonition, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. You're going to be angry, but don't let it eat you up and invite the demons to come in and sup with you and stay with you, because you allow bitterness in. So we got to resolve it. But anyway, just being careful to know, standing in your own right. Look, I was right to be angry. They are wrong. They're the ones who lied. They're continuously lying. And they are the ones who did wrong in this case. My mom, she had to deal with this elder coming in and saying, well, it's your fault that your husband has been doing this to his daughter and your daughter, da 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 da, and you've not been taking care of him sexually. And I was in the other room hearing this, and I was livid. I was only like 21 years old, 22. And I was literally jumping up and down because I came in when this guy was in the living room with my mother and her husband, and it was my stepfather. And so I went in the other room and I'm just listening to this going on with my husband. And we're not dead. I was married before. And I was like, oh my God, putting it on my mother. And she's mortified. Like it's all my fault. And I'm a bad wife and taking all this on and not even thinking, well, I got to get my daughter into safety. I've got to get his daughter into safety. I can't allow this in my house anymore. No, no, he's putting it all on her, putting all this under the rug like it never happened. If you'll just take care of him better, then he won't be needing to do that anymore. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Who's in the wrong here? And my mom was made to feel like the bad person and guilty and shamed. And then to feel like I'm helpless to help my children. And so, man, people can play some pretty nasty little games, especially when they were used to having the power. And we're used to feeling that we're just the peon, good for nothing slaves, like in the Jehovah's Witness faith, that you guys believe that. It's craziness. Like I always say, if you go to work and your boss said, oh, you're just a good for nothing slave, just do what you're supposed to be doing. You would say, how dare you talk to me that way? But in the context of these elders that have always had the power, and surely they know better than we have, we'll let them get away with murder and even rape our daughters and let them do all kinds of crap. And we don't think it's wrong because somehow they're the elders, they're right, and we're the peon, good for nothing slaves, which they've trained us to think like. It's so evil. But we have to stand in our own right and say, no, I'm calling a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Right is right and wrong is wrong, and you are wrong. And this is not okay, and it will never be okay. And then you got to forgive that person on your own. And even if they never say they're sorry, because you don't want the demons coming in ruining your life, but you still have to call a spade, to thine own self be true.
Yeah, you don't want to move into hate, but
No.
you can be angry,
Yes.
frustrated, call them out, and then say, I've got your number, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to change that. You're not going to convince me I'm dirt and I'm a part of Satan's world. I'm not going to buy that.
Or somehow it's my fault.
Yes.
No.
And so, yeah, that's good. So, the final thing I just wanted to talk about to get free, this is what I had to learn, is we're going to have to start thinking, and we're going to have to challenge some of the thinking that we've been taught, some of the belief systems. They call them just programs. I think we got take it and make that a little bit clearer. We've got to take a look at some of the things we've been taught and to say, are they true or are they not true? We've got to literally rethink the things we were taught, or we won't be free. And if you just let those programs run, God's name's Jehovah, says that in Psalms 83:18, that men may know that God's whose name alone is Jehovah is the most high over all the earth, and we're Jehovah's Witnesses and all that crap. If you let that program run, you won't really be able to fit into many other environments. If you let the Christmas thing run, if you let the blood thing run, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just giving you things. Everywhere is a dead end road unless you attack and take a look at those programs that's been put in you. And if you just think about it, because we haven't been taught to think, right? We were just been taught black is black, white is white. Everything outside the organization is black, right? And so if you just thought about it, if you just thought, how can somebody, just say the Mormons, right? How can there be so many Mormons? How can there be so many? It's one of the richest churches in the world. And they're looking at the same Bible, but they see everything totally different. See, there's a tapestry within the Mormons that they lean on, and it's the covenants and doctrines and it's prophets. And they believe there was a modern day prophet today, and his name was, this. And it's like Jehovah's Witnesses were the faithful and discreet slave. Well, they have a modern day prophet, and they believe God would never leave us without a prophet. And the testimony that they have a prophet is Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormons. And so they have all this stuff to back their ideal, but it's a whole different ideology out of the same Bible. And there's I think there's over 100 or 200 different dialects of Christianity within the same Bible. We believe you can speak in tongues, but we don't believe you can speak in tongues. We don't believe in the gifts, and we don't believe in this. So you got to ask yourself, was I all right? Did I really have the truth? How can these people be in this other religion reading out of the same Bible and be happy? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? What were you going to say?
Well, or they seem to be happy anyway, and to us, it's like boxes everywhere. You're just in another box and then another box. But in my religion, just for another perspective too, is that, straight out of the Bible, it says is that you shall not one iota of the Bible shall be taken out until all is fulfilled. And so, and that we are to keep these holy days from generation to generation and forever. And so that's why we kept all the Jewish holy days and all the law and all that. And then keep the Sabbath day. The seventh day is the Sabbath, and it's the Lord's day. And you shall not work on that day. And it goes all the stuff in the Ten Commandments talks all about the seventh day. And when God had Adam and Eve and he created the earth and all of that, then he said that God rested on the seventh day. And so we have all this programming around, these holy days that they're never to be done with, forever and ever and ever they're to be kept. And the Sabbath is the holy day of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, thou nor your son nor your manservant nor your maidservant nor your ox nor your ass nor the stranger that's within your gates. And just programmed heavy duty. Where do you go with that? Because no other churches keep Saturday except for the Jews. And so where are you going to go? Right. And, you go to Seventh-day Adventist church, it's just a whole nother box, a whole nother, they keep the Sabbath, but they're a whole nother cult in their own right, and so anyway, you do have to come out and see things with a fresh new lens and with perspective of, I don't know, maybe even take a break. I had to take a break from the Bible altogether so I could have just kind of let things settle for a bit. And then we go back, and even that it took time.
Oh yeah. Oh
A
yeah.
little bit here, a little bit there. I could eventually hear it from other people and then sort it myself. And but it required the Holy Spirit within me, my own guidance system to help me to figure things out on my own, because everywhere you go is another box.
Yep.
It's tough.
Yeah. And one of the ways that I had to dismantle the name Jehovah, right? You couldn't really prove it wrong. You couldn't prove it wrong, because again, it's on the dollar bills, it's on buildings, it's Satan is pushed it into the dark, so nobody knows Jehovah, nobody knows who to pray to, so they're all being misled. And so how do you dismantle that? How do you dismantle Psalms 83:18? How do you say that's not true? Well, maybe you don't. maybe you don't say it's not true. You say, okay, say that is God's name. Say, okay, the Tetragrammaton, right? YHWH was Jehovah. You put the vowels in and it's Jehovah. And, that's the modern day use of Yahweh is Jehovah. And in some Bibles, it's Jehovah. And then other Bibles, it's the Tetragrammaton. And yes, it was 7,000 times or 8,000. I don't know how many. It was a lot of times in the Old Testament. But here is the question. The big question is, how has Jehovah, the true God, the one and only true God, been working with these men? Since they know Jehovah, they're the special ones. Jehovah took out a people for his name's sake, Jehovah's Witnesses. So how has that benefited Jehovah's Witnesses? How has that benefited the brothers? Jehovah's continued to lie over 100 years, and they say they have the direct connection. They said that Jehovah's appointed the governing body over all his belongings. And yet, for over 100 years, they've had false prophecy. So the question is, how has them knowing the name Jehovah, say it is Jehovah, okay, it's Jehovah. So how has them knowing the one true God benefited them? How has it benefited the people? The people have been lied to, lied again. They've been told they have this bright light in 75 and it's here and then it passes. They deny it. Then they come up with a new prophecy. We got more light from Jehovah, generation prophecy. Then we got more light from Jehovah, overlapping. And basically the people are just being screwed by Jehovah, or is it by the governing body who use the name Jehovah, but really don't know Jehovah at all? So you start breaking it down. Does Jehovah really have a true religion? How could these guys be in the true religion? How could these guys be hiding pedophiles? How could these guys, would Jehovah want Jehovah's Witnesses to be hiding pedophiles and two witness rules? Would Jehovah be giving us partial truths and partial literature and saying it was light and it was bright light and then retracting it all, retracting songbooks, retracting paradise book, revelation books, rewriting their books? They rewrite their shit all the time. Why can't we rewrite some of those things?
They even have a thing where is if you even, I just found this out a week ago, that if you read one of the old books, one of the old, whatever it is that they've decided is going bye-bye and is to be burned, then you will be put out, you'll be excommunicated. You're not allowed to read the old literature. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it was once holy and straight from Jehovah, and now it's to be burned. And if you dare read it, you're going to be excommunicated. Man, woo, God, that's really nutty, really, really bad.
Yes. So guys, we just wanted to, in this talk we're given on spiritual discoveries and the price of freedom, we just want
Just want to see if there's any comments. Let's see if there.
okay.
Okay, let's see here.
We just wanted to tell you, these are some things that you need to think about before you leave, if you're contemplating
And
leaving.
maybe you're not a Jehovah's Witness. We're not exactly sure. We
Yeah.
don't know who Sam is.
Yeah.
But
Whatever it is you're going through, we want to give you some things to think about. These are realities. These are realities that me and Angela both had to go through. We realize there is a price for the freedom. And the beautiful thing is, when eventually the clouds do clear, you get back your thinking, you get back your homeostasis, you get back to, being in touch with yourself, you come back into union with yourself. You lose that separation that you've had, that separation from self and denying yourself. And you actually get your head back. You get all your GPSs working again. And it's a beautiful thing. And you actually find out God isn't the angry, jealous, mad God you thought he was, that's going to kill you and everybody else any day.
I forgot what I was gonna say, sorry.
So anyway, that's the beauty. That's the other side of the rainbow. And all I could say is just take one step at a time. Angela would tell you the same. Take one step at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah.
Just one foot in front of the other. Let yourself be lost for a little bit. Let yourself be disoriented. You're going to be disoriented.
And then let yourself be loved by others that are not from your faith. Just allow yourself to feel the love from your animals, from the birds, and the presence of God in his own creation. Just soak that in. You need it. It will get you through. Get out in that sunshine and just let God's love just fill you. When you get outside in God's nature, there's something connective about it. You need that to survive all of this. I also recommend an animal if you're alone to get a little dog or something that you can take walks with that will be a companion to love you no matter what. They love you unconditionally. They're the most precious thing and can really help you through a really hard time. And open up to God's love because we're used to thinking of Jehovah or the God that we've come from, the religion you've come from, as being disappointed in us and that we're not worthy of love. But the truth is, we came from God, each of us. And why would a parent not love its own child? So the truth is, a parent always loves their child. And the truth is, we're loved by this God who made us. And so open your heart back up. Make a determination that you're going to open your heart back up to receive love and let it soak in. And it's very helpful, very freeing, and it will help you a lot if you can just do that. And the other last thing is to try really, 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 really hard to not judge yourself for not being good enough, because that's what they've been doing to you, and you're used to being judged. And now you judge yourself harshly. Just be done with that. And determine not to judge other people either, because to the degree that you judge yourself is to the exact degree that you find yourself judging everyone else. And that's there's just no need for it. And
Right.
they're doing the best they can. Everybody in this world is doing the best they can. You'll see when you start figuring it out. No matter what religion, they're doing the best they know how to do based on how they were raised. So why
right.
judge? So don't judge yourself, and then you will find that you won't judge others.
Yeah, and let yourself make mistakes. That's one
Mhm.
thing that we do is when you get out, you make a mistake, you get with the wrong girl, you get with the wrong guy, yeah, and you say, "Oh man, I left the organization. I'm making all these mistakes." No, you make the mistakes whether you're in the organization or out of the organization. So let yourself make the mistakes that you make. You're going to miss the mark. Call it missing the mark. Don't make such a big thing out of sin. Sin just means missing the mark. Remember, Jesus said, "I didn't come to judge." Just turn around. So if we make a mistake, we just turn around. We just turn around. We say, "Oh, that was the wrong mistake." We don't have to beat ourselves up and say, "Oh, it's because I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, because I left Christianity. I'm out in the world now and everything's going bad." And you're going to have the same. I made just as many mistakes being a witness
Mhm.
within the organization as I did when I got out. And we're supposed to make mistakes. The Bible says we learn by what we suffer. So let yourself off the hook. Let yourself make the mistakes. Let yourself you're gonna get screwed over. You're gonna get, you might be a bit marketed. You made a bad investment deal. Things are gonna happen. Life just happens.
I mean, look, when you leave something like this and you're rejected to the severity that you are, it's so shocking that you'll find yourself doing things you wouldn't normally do, like drinking too much, for example.
Yes.
Maybe getting some sort of an illness, and then you get hooked on prescription medication. I don't know, stuff goes on and it makes you feel like, see, they were right. I fell back into the world. I'm now Satan's child. Sure enough, they were right. Just because you got a DUI because you drank too much, or you made a bad choice when you were at the bar and you went home with somebody. I don't know what, like Dan said, he realized he did some of the same crap in there as he did on the outside. But when you're desperate and you're lonely, you don't know what you're going to do. But don't go thinking that, sure enough, they're right, I'm part of Satan's world, because that's a lie. And think about it, you're just going through a tough time, and we make bad choices when we're going through a tough time sometimes. So forgive yourself.
Oh yeah.
Just forgive yourself, because God does. As far as the east is from the west, he puts that sin into the ocean if you just ask for forgiveness. And there might be some consequences on earth. Sometimes there are, and you have to deal with that. But you're forgiven by God. It says that in the Bible, flat out. And he doesn't hold grudges. God is not a grudge holder. He hardly notices when others do it wrong. That's what it says in the Bible in Corinthians. God hardly even notices when we do it wrong. That's how loving. He's patient, kind, generous. You know, um, God is
Yeah,
good.
that's another program. That's just another program that says you went back to the world, right?
Right.
So that's what creeps up when you make a mistake. You went, oh my God, I'm back in the world. I'm making mistakes again. So your tendency will be to want to run back to slavery. And
Yeah,
you don't want to run
for
back to
sure.
slavery because you don't ever fit in. It's the same old, same old. It's waiting. It's putting your life on hold. It's all these things. So
And going back, there is nothing to go back to.
there isn't.
You're gonna sit in the back of the hallway for 2 to 10 years.
You're never
this is
quite
the
accepted the
record.
same.
You're not. You're looked at with disdain and disgust and guilt because they can't talk to you, but they want to. Why? Well, there's nothing to go back to, so don't even think about it anymore. You have to move on. There's nothing to go back to. It's hard, but
That's right.
trust me, it's not so hard because it's not there's nothing to go back to anyway. Even if there was something to go back to and they would accept you, that's not to go back to. Go back to the lie? You've chosen the lie again? No. So since they won't accept you, you can't go back for that reason, and you don't want to go back to the lie. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to talk yourself back into the lie because you miss everybody. Look, they're already gone. They can't talk to you anymore. 2 to 10 years before they'll ever be able to talk to you again. That's how that works. The history has shown. And it's not just here and there where they take you right back. No, they're saying that they're changing that. Maybe they are, Dan, but it's not worth it, guys. It's not worth it.
No, they'll never accept you back the same. Once you leave something, you're never to be trusted. But what I want to tell you is after you get out, after the clouds clear, after the shame and guilt comes off you, after you kind of just come back to yourself and, see your own humanness and you know as much as governing body about the end and when it's going to come or not come. They don't have any special GPS systems or anything like that, any special connections. They're even saying that now. We don't have any special connection. We're not spirit guided.
You are saying that.
And but what you will have, other than going back and being part of the group, but like you can go back part of the group and everyone says, oh, we're a little glad you're back. We're really glad you're part of the family again. And yeah, you can have that, or you can actually find your gifts and find out why you're supposed to be here. You don't think about that. You can actually realize your gifts and why you're supposed to be here. The Bible says you're supposed to be the light of the world. You came here to do greater things than even Jesus, it says. You're here to do wonderful, amazing, wonderful things. But you'll never discover that. You'll never discover those parts of yourself until you come out from behind the authority of other men, until you take back your temple and allow God to rule your temple. No one between you and God. Until you allow for that divine union, you'll never find your gifts. You won't. You'll just be a program. You'll be a yes man. You'll be a group think man. Let's all agree together. Let's all say yes together, and you'll be a part of the group think. And so, anyway,
Yeah, because I was realizing when I was saying that last thing, like, wait a minute, they just changed it where if you are trying to come back into the Jehovah's Witness faith, that they will take you back so long as you're studying. Well, is that what you really want? You want to go backwards. You've discovered the lies, you discovered that this can't be the truth and all that, but because the yearning is so strong to go back to family and hug them and hold them again, that you're willing to study. I don't know. That seems like selling your soul for soup to
yep.
me, which is Esau and Jacob in the Bible. That's like the worst thing you could ever do. So hopefully you won't make that choice.
Yep, but it's your choice. So, guys, we just want to say thanks for tuning in today. That's our thoughts on the price for freedom, and it's absolutely worth the price. Whatever price, freedom is beautiful. Freedom is wonderful. Freedom is able to think like you want, daydream, imagine, hope.
The truth is freedom.
The truth is freedom. And so just keep seeking that for yourself. Do not deny reality anymore. Do not say something is true when it's false, like we had to do in the witnesses. We were trained to say what's false is true, and follow these blind guides, governing body. And so,
And don't blame yourself and don't let them blame you.
that's right. So say yes to freedom, say yes that I'm going to pay the price. And then you'll come back later and you'll be so glad you did. You'll look at those who stayed in the prisons, in the ideals, in the false beliefs, and you'll see them withering away from the inside out. the unhappiness, the joylessness, the all kinds of things.
Hair falling
It's like, it's not truth, like Angela said, that sets you free. And so until you seek that, and maybe the religion served you for a while. Maybe it did serve you. It served me.
Yeah.
It served Angela
Yeah.
worldwide for a while,
Mhm.
but then it was a means to an end. It was the end of that. I didn't need that anymore. I don't need their hold handing. I don't need their, now I see the false prophecies. Now I'm able to move on. So we can say, God bless it, that it
Yes.
served us,
Yes.
and
Yes.
thank you. And we can also say goodbye
And let the training wheels fall away.
and let the training wheels fall away. So anyway, guys, we just wanted to share that with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you,
And
Sam.
yep,
Samson.
Samson. So I don't know if you want to say anything. If you don't, you can unmute yourself. If you don't, then we're just going to end it right here. And
Thanks for joining us.
thank you again, and we'll see you next Sunday and for another spiritual discoveries.
Yep.
We don't know what it's going to be yet,
Nope.
but it'll be something, and we look forward to seeing you there.
All right.
So, all right,
Over and out.
over and out.
Love you.
See you later.
You're worth loving.
Yes, absolutely.
You're
Think about
good.
these things. Think about them.